Have you ever wondered why a country as resource-rich as Russia struggles economically? It's a land of contrasts, where vast natural wealth and economic turmoil coexist. You see, Russia is one of the world's largest oil and natural gas producers. Its enormous landmass, spanning 11 time zones, is rich in diverse natural resources. From the Ural Mountains to the Siberian plains, it's teeming with oil, gas, coal, precious metals, and timber. The wealth beneath its soil is staggering, putting it among the top resource-rich countries on the globe. Yet paradoxically, Russia's economy is in a state of flux, often bordering on instability. It's like a giant with one foot in a pool of gold and the other on a shaky ground. Despite having a treasure trove of resources, the Russian economy is far from robust. Its GDP per capita, a measure of economic prosperity, is lower than that of many smaller resource-poor countries. In fact, it's not an exaggeration to say that Russia's economy today is worse off than during the Soviet Union era. So what's the enigma here? How can a country so rich in resources struggle to stabilize its economy? It's like owning a gold mine, but not knowing how to extract the gold. Or better yet, knowing how to extract it but not how to use it to improve your economic standing. The answer to this puzzle lies in a complex web of factors, including historical, political, and economic developments, both domestic and global. It's a story of a country's struggle to leverage its natural wealth, a struggle marred by systemic corruption, economic mismanagement, and geopolitical tensions. So how did Russia get to this point, where its economy is worse than during the Soviet Union era? Let's delve into the timeline of its economic downfall. We'll trace the journey of the Russian economy from the fall of the Soviet Union to the present day, to unravel the mystery of its economic paradox. Stay tuned as we delve deeper into the enigma of the Russian economy. To understand the current state, we must journey back to the dissolution of the Soviet Union. Picture this: the year is 1991, and the Soviet Union, a mighty superpower, crumbles, leaving behind 15 independent republics, one of them being Russia. The newborn nation was faced with the Herculean task of transitioning from a centrally planned economy to a market-oriented one. Enter the 1990s, a time of sweeping economic reforms. Privatization was the order of the day, and state-owned enterprises were sold off at lightning speed. The economy saw a temporary spurt of growth, fueled by a wave of fresh capital and optimism. This was the dawn of a new era, an era that promised prosperity and growth. But as the saying goes, what goes up must come down, and so it did with the Russian economy. The spark of initial growth soon fizzled out, replaced by the chilling winds of the 1998 financial crisis. The ruble collapsed, triggering a domino effect. Banks defaulted, people lost their savings, and the nation plunged into a deep recession. This was a time of stark contrasts. On one hand, there was the glittering wealth of the new oligarchs who had amassed enormous fortunes during the privatization spree. On the other hand, there was the grim reality of the common folk, who were grappling with unemployment, poverty, and an uncertain future. The wealth of the country, its vast natural resources, were concentrated in the hands of a few, while the majority were left to fend for themselves in an economy that was spiraling downward. The fall from grace was harsh and unforgiving. From the hopeful rise of the early 90s to the crushing reality of the late 90s, Russia's economic journey was a roller coaster ride, to say the least. But the crisis of '98 was just the beginning of a series of economic challenges that would plague Russia. As we stepped into the 21st century, Russia's economy took us on a wild ride. At the dawn of the new millennium, Russia's economic landscape was painted with promising strokes. The early 2000s saw a surge in economic growth, largely fueled by soaring oil prices. Russia, being one of the world's largest oil producers, benefited immensely from this situation. The country's GDP grew by leaps and bounds, and for a moment, it seemed as though Russia was on track to become an economic powerhouse. But as they say, what goes up must come down. The global financial crisis in 2008 hit the world hard, and Russia was no exception. The high-flying oil prices plummeted, and with it, Russia's economic growth took a nosedive. The country's GDP contracted, and the Russian economy found itself in a state of recession. This was a stark contrast to the economic prosperity of the early 2000s. It was a harsh reminder of the volatility and unpredictability of the global economy. The years that followed were marked by economic stagnation. Despite having vast natural resources and wealth, Russia struggled to recover from the blows of the financial crisis. The economic policies couldn't keep pace with the rapidly changing global economic scenario. The result was a period of recession where economic growth was as elusive as a mirage in the desert. Fast forward to the present day, the Russian economy finds itself in a state of quandary. On one hand, it has the potential to tap into its vast natural resources and wealth. On the other hand, it grapples with the aftermath of economic policies that failed to deliver. The economic roller coaster ride of the 21st century has left Russia at a crossroads where the path to recovery seems to be a long and arduous one. Now, let's summarize the key points discussed and make sense of this economic conundrum. So, what are the key takeaways from Russia's economic journey? We've looked at its vast natural resources, the economic downfall post-Soviet Union, and the economic roller coaster of the 21st century. Now, we're going to delve into the paradox of a resource-rich country struggling economically. Russia is a land of extremes, a country of immense size and resources. It is home to the world's largest natural gas reserves, the second largest coal reserves, and the eighth largest oil reserves. Yet, despite these abundant resources, Russia's economy has been marked by instability and volatility. This is the paradox of the Russian economy, a nation with such vast natural wealth, yet struggling to achieve consistent economic progress. The reasons behind this paradox are multifaceted. Firstly, the over-reliance on these resources has made the economy incredibly vulnerable to fluctuations in global commodity prices. When prices are high, Russia thrives, but when they drop, the economy takes a hit. Secondly, the post-Soviet transition to a market economy was fraught with challenges. The rapid privatization of state assets led to wealth concentration in the hands of a few, creating an oligarchic economy. This has resulted in economic inequality and social unrest, further fueling economic instability. Thirdly, corruption and lack of transparency have hampered economic development. These issues have deterred foreign investment and stifled domestic businesses, constraining economic growth. Lastly, economic sanctions imposed by Western nations have further strained the economy, limiting its access to global markets and foreign capital. These sanctions have exacerbated the economic woes of a country already grappling with internal economic challenges. In essence, Russia's economic paradox lies in its inability to effectively leverage its vast resources for consistent economic growth. Its over-reliance on natural resources, coupled with systemic issues like corruption and wealth concentration, have held back its economic potential. The story of Russia's economy is a complex one, filled with highs and lows. It's a tale of a country rich in resources, yet struggling to find its economic footing. So, where does this leave Russia's economy? As we've seen, Russia is grappling with an array of economic challenges. The nation's reliance on oil and gas exports has been a double-edged sword. While these resources have brought wealth, the volatility of global oil prices has led to economic instability. Couple this with the economic sanctions imposed by the international community and the structural issues that haunt the Russian economy, and you have a cocktail for economic turbulence. Yet, despite these challenges, Russia's future is far from bleak. The country is teeming with natural resources, from timber to precious metals, that could be harnessed to diversify the economy. Moreover, the potential for innovation and technological advancement in Russia is immense. Could we see Russia pivot to a more diversified and sustainable economic model in the future? Only time will tell if Russia can leverage its vast resources to overcome its economic struggles and build a prosperous future.